Hey world, I just wanted to chat with you about Grand Canyon lottery numbers, where they're at now, where they're going, all around the question that Tom Martin actually asked me last week, which was, where do you see the number of applications going in the next 10 years or the next decade, in contrast to the permits available? And I said, well, I expect those to double. And the reason I expect this to double, I'll go into further. But first, I want to just look at and talk about this data a little bit. So here's a graph I have of the lottery data from 2008 to 2019 for just the main lottery. And we can see that in the 2008 year, we had 2,304 applications. And 10 years later, we've more than doubled. To 6,650 applications. And so if we look, I have another spreadsheet. Sorry. If we look at the forecasted volume 10 years out, at 2038, we'll have more than doubled. 15,000 applications in the main lottery for 472 permits approximately. So you see your win rates and loss rates are just going to nudge up from where they're at right now in the 95th percentile up to like the 97th. And this is just the main lottery, not all the follow-up lotteries. Loss rates in those much higher, much closer to 98, 99% loss rates across them. And so we can see that. Jumping back to our most present time, this is the lottery data for the main lottery of 2019. And again, if this is your first time watching this, this is now very much an open source project. A lot of these formulas come from other computer software people and math people in the internet who see this screencast and they suggest edits. And if they're good, I pull them in and add them to the version. All right, so here we go. We can see the data for 2018. You can see our win rate of almost 8%, a loss rate of 92%. And again, that's so misleading. I mean, it's still really bad, but it's so misleading because it discounts all the follow-up lotteries that will follow, right? So we can see some of those in the 2018 data, even though we're not totally through the 2018 year yet, right? We've only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 follow-up lotteries. The seventh just opened up. It hasn't run, so there's no data yet. And we can see that there's been about 10,000 applicants in the follow-up lottery. And there we can see that 3% win rate and almost 97% loss rate. And if we look across all of them, it's about the same, actually. It's a little lower. You can see your median, which is the most common number in the data set for win rates, 4%, and the loss rates, 95. And again, we're not all the way through all the lotteries for the 2018 year yet. However, we are for the 2017 year. All the lotteries for the 2017 year have run. There were 11 follow-up lotteries, and we can see that there is about, because there were 5,550 applications for the main lottery in the 2017 year, and there are 15,226 total, there's about, rounding for even numbers, 10,000 applications for just the follow-up lotteries. And so I think this is a much more accurate median, 97% loss rate, 3% win rate across the lotteries for an entire year's application cycle. So if you take 1 year, all the lotteries that occur within that calendar year, see what's the average win rate, what's the average loss rate. It's in 2017, it was slightly less than 3%. I expect it to get closer to 2% in 2018, maybe 2.5%. 2018, maybe as low as 2% for 2019. By the time we're 10 years from now, that will be 1%, if not less. So that's what's going to happen. Um, at which point, your best option for getting on a trip again, it's not impossible, is to either obviously you can book a commercial trip. It's the easiest way to get on. Or if you know someone who has a permit and they'll let you on the permit, you can get one that way. That's the easiest way to get the Grand Canyon. Those two ways, or do a river trip. So that's what's going on with the data. Why do I think the volume is going to increase substantially year over year for the next in the next decade? Was the baby boomers kind of age out of being able to run the Grand Canyon, and the generation behind me, the generation behind the millennials, comes of age to where they're 18 and to 30, let's just say, and they can apply to the lottery and go. This is a much more technologically savvy generation. You have to remember that not all people can have the ability to check email, fill out a river profile with their birth date and their trip information, and have that correspond with an email account. And even not all people have the ability to just remember password management on a computer, right? And so, is that generation um, where older generations struggle with that more because they didn't grow up with these types of technologies, and so as they age out of being able to even go on the Grand Canyon physically, the generation behind them, they're born with these technologies. They're born with email. They're born with the ability to have tons of profiles and all sorts of apps, not just permitting apps, but social media, work, productivity, school. And so for them, the idea of applying for a lottery every time for a permit is super easy. Because of that, there'll be a lot more people applying, and the generation's just bigger. So, bigger population, more technologically uh, able population just will equate to a higher demand. And that's just not nationally, that's globally, right? Right now, nationally, Colorado and California have the highest application volume. Well, I see that kind of growing both nationally and globally. I see um, a lot more applications coming from Europe and Asia. So all those factors combined would just mean it will be much, much harder to access this resource through this current lottery system 10 years from now. All right, I hope that helps give a good explanation of my thoughts on the data. And let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks. Bye.